This week on the show, Hutchi and I break down Caulfield and how it played and what to look for going forward. Hen House, we put a few in there. We go head to head on the Might and Power Stakes. Hutch really loves it. I'm not so sure about it. Doghouse, we actually put the Caulfield Guineas into it. It raced not so well with us. Some horses in the Fox's Den that you can follow with a bit of confidence. The Aviatress race, anything that finished anywhere near 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, just be with that race. Mare's grade, those horses will be winning plenty of races for you. That was Pandora's Fox. Hello and welcome to Pandora's Fox. My name is Julian Balance, joined as always by Racing.com analyst Clint Hutchison. G'day Hutch, you got through the week okay?
Just
Yes.
through it. Yeah, you're sounding a bit under the weather.
Yeah, I've caught some type of disease, not one of those ones that Sky Brie or any of those people have, but there's definitely something in there in the system at the moment that's not ideal. Hong Kong last night too, how was that?
Yeah, no, it was a good day. Yeah, a lot of good results. So we had a pretty good week actually.
Okay,
so
good.
It was good. Caulfield was
some
good
momentum.
too. And
yes.
you had a big day at Caulfield.
Got lucky.
Well done.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, let's get to the track intel because this could take a while. All right, track analysis for Caulfield. We worry about just what we do, and there's been plenty of narrative around what lots of other people have said. We know that the rail was in the true position the entire circuit for the first of their 3-day carnival. Track was a good 4, upgraded to a good 3 after race 4, Hutch. Now, how we've sort of seen it is from the shoot, from the intel, I thought somewhat even, if you compare it to possibly, say, the circle here, a little bit even. On speed and advantage, no doubt. But then a part that you mentioned, I think, which is really important for the punters to understand is, and probably for the circle as well, inside lanes seem to be superior and were obviously an advantage throughout the day.
Yeah, it seemed that way. I mean, some commentary pre-race as well about it was slightly drier in there. A little bit of a subtlety down the side as well. So I think personally, I mean, would you have 8 of 10 within 2 lengths at the 600, 8 of 10 in the first 5 in the run? Caulfield can be like that, like you said. But I think those inside lanes, if you're going to make up ground in it, probably needed to be in those inside, a couple lanes in the run and then probably in the straight, 1 to 5.
Yep, I think that's right. No doubting that, 1 to 5. And just with the shoot races, we saw Chewing Gum run on, but to your point, was actually inside running during the race, so then was able to get to that spot. But other horses like the winner, Bellatrix Star, again, just was a little bit worse than midfield and still was able to win the race. In terms of, we always have to break it down, shoot versus circle. They're not always the same. I think shoot in particular is a little bit more even for those horses that would say worse than midfield if you were maybe inside running in transit. But the circle, no doubt, I think on speed was an advantage. Lanes 1 and 2 were a major advantage, and leaders plus. I think that's the important thing going forward.
And you highlighted as much, I think, with your track intel last week.
We're going to get to that with the Hen House.
Right.
All right, let's get to the Hen House. We're going to kick this off with what we actually produced in behind us here on the Jules and JJ show last week. And I know, as we've been speaking about it, the narrative that was after what Caulfield was. And here was our prediction that you can see behind us. This is how we thought this race day would set up. Being good drying conditions, they put 16 mils of irrigation on. Maybe some people consider that wasn't enough, but sometimes what's the level of what's enough and what's too much?
Level that to the
Correct,
track
exactly. And at the end of the day, this is how Caulfield does play when it goes back to the true, when it races, how we think Caulfield's going to play. That's why you get your chips in and you're actually really excited in terms of a punting perspective, because it races how you expect it to race. And that's what it was behind us. So I think that's the important thing as well. It could easily have been predicted what happened, put the work in, and you sometimes get the results. Okay, let's get to the races and some horses that we want to follow as well here, Hutch. Race 3, winner was Aviatress, 3/4 of a second inside standard time. Their last 400, 200 is the best of the day by far from a race point of view. This horse has gone enormous.
Yeah, absolutely huge win.
Yeah.
It was a pretty sort of, you hear Craig Williams sort of post an earlier race winner as well, say, I'll talk to you soon, and I thought he might have been talking about Brightside. I think he was talking about this one. Aviatress, she's got enormous. They can aim a lot higher all of a sudden with her. That was a terrific win. Look, I think you get a good line as well with the run a little deep.
100%.
It's been going well.
Yep.
Probably about where its level's at too, but she was fantastic.
Yeah, she was big. So the key thing here is when we identify these horses or these races that go into the Hen House is we've got to be careful of this horse, Aviatress. Now, this is an SA horse as well. She's deep into the prep. I think this may be 5th or 6th run Hutch. And also twice she's come from SA this prep to get over here. Now, maybe they'll go again, and yes, you've got to follow that number because the market absolutely will. But just be careful with her now because she could be getting to the end of it. But what you can trust is the number's real, and then if she goes for a break and comes back, that's the number we can sort of settle on.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think from a race point of view, there'll be horses that have finished in behind these, 4th and 5th, maybe 6th, even worse, that were first up, and then are now going to get a massive springboard off a race like this.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It was certainly good on the clock.
Absolutely. Let's get to race 5 because this horse we put into the Hen House when it won first up over 1,100 metres. We knew that it wasn't going to be suited over 1,100 metres. Well, it got to 1,400 metres. I speak of Jimmy's Star, 3/4 of a second inside standard time. Last 400, 200 from a race perspective only fair. But then let's outline actually Jimmy's Star. It absolutely outstrips that by far in the last 400, 200, outstanding. I don't know where the ceiling is for this horse.
Wow, it was just a really good performance. I liked him, as did I'm sure you on the day. And yeah, he was probably the horse that, you know, for those that want to say it was a bit more even than it was.
Yeah.
You know, he did sort of get in that 3-wide line once again where the start was, but he was dominant. He won well, confident ride from Shin. And he's put up a very good number here. So where do they? I think they're highlighting the 1,400.
Rupert Clark?
Yeah, but they might have one run before.
Yeah,
then.
I think they'd need one before because it's sort of the back end of the carnival now, that Rupert Clark Stokes Day, which is also on the same day as the 1,000 Guineas. So they definitely need another one, and you're probably thinking around Flemington somewhere there might be one. But, I mean, market loves him, so great, but he's actually also backing it up as well on the clock.
Yeah.
So he's the real deal, Jimmy's Star, and you could probably suggest from a circle point of view, again, take out Anteno, which we'll get to a little bit later from what Blake Shid did from a riding perspective. Jimmy's Star was probably the outlier, which probably shows just how good he might be and how
I think
much he was
that's
across
also a good thing, you know. He probably didn't have all the favours,
Yeah.
but compared to many others that won on the day, but he was very good. I mean, there was decent speed. He got a beautiful run in the race, and yeah, he just quickened up so well. I don't know, they'll probably stick to the 1,400 this campaign, but then where do they go down the track?
And because there's not a lot of 1,400 metre group races. So you have to actually get to the mile, and then it really opens up with your opportunities. But we've seen it with some other horses that look great at 1,400 metres, get to 1,600 metres, and they fall off the cliff. So Jimmy's a star, it's all ahead of him, but he is an absolute ripper. Going to get to race 7 here, and I reckon we might have just some disagreement in terms of how good this race has gone. Winner is Deny Knowledge. Half a second inside standard time, last 400, 200, only fair compared to the rest of the day for Group 1 horses. But this horse leads, Brightside sits off it, and then I thought had its chance to go past it, but she was pretty good here, Deny Knowledge, to be able to lead all the way.
Fantastic. Brilliant ride from Mark Zara. Just sort of in terms of the efficiency and what he did, 99.8, so he nearly rated it to absolute perfection. And you know, you don't want to go slow on her. You roll along. You know, once again, I thought it was just a brave effort. She held off Brightside by half a length, and yeah, I tend to agree. He was similar, 101%. I thought at the 500, I thought, he's probably close enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think there was any excuse for him, to be honest, to pick her up, knowing that he's the Group 1 weight for age performer who's, you know, 3rd or 4th pick in a Cox plate.
A lot of discussion, 16 or 2000. I think he's a better horse over 16. I think he gets 2000 fine though. I mean, we've got to remember, like, he's beaten a tissue a couple of, you know, she's pretty good over 2000.
Absolutely.
So.
And she was on a quick 7-day backup as well. So usually you would think that's usually going to be her peak performance for the prep. I know she'll go to Flemington again, but I'm not sold on her this prep compared to, say, what she was doing last prep. I'm going to keep the powder dry because I'm going to ask you about Deny Knowledge and where it goes next, and obviously Mr. Brightside as well. But you do have this race going really well overall.
Yeah, I do. I had it going really well overall, and like I thought, actually Brightside improved on his Valley Run fraction, and it was under what he did on the heavy track at Flemington. So he's in the same ballpark. That's him. And he ran his honest race. So that would say to me that the race has gone pretty good. Okay, well, I'm going to be in the other corner. I'm going to say it's gone no good. So we're going to find out in time with what goes on in terms of market perspective and also results. But I've got my doubts on this race going forward, but let's just see what happens. But that's the Hen House for this week at Caulfield. Okay, let's get to the doghouse here, Hutch. We've got 2 races that we identified, and we probably could have put a couple others in, but we'll just settle with this. Race 4, the mares race over 1,600 metres. Grinzinger Bell wins the race.
Half a sec inside standard time, but the last 400, 200 again, I thought was only fair compared to the rest of the day. She did a really good job. She's only third run prep, but she got to the front. Great ride by Damien Lane from that wide barrier. I thought she just hung on. She fell in. And I'm just worried about overall what the market's going to do with this race. So that's why I'm a little bit on the side of I'm not too sure.
Yeah, she, like you said, she was well rated. I think she's better at that sort of bowling tempo. I agree with you. The race hasn't really rated well at all for me, compared to where they're going to go with her.
Yeah, so this is the thing.
That's the issue. Like, where does she go now? So, she's high enough in the ratings, and I suppose she's going to have to tackle some of the bigger guns.
Yeah, so clearly the next progression, theoretically, is an Empire Road Stakes at Group 1 level. And I just think she's probably going to struggle at that. This race overall, I just think is going to be spat out for a race like that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We've seen other horses that might be headed in that same direction. So a little bit of a question mark around Grinzing a Bell.
Yes. So as we do, when we talk about the doghouse in here, this is not potting the owners, the connections, the horse that wins the race. It's about what we're going to do forward with this type of race and what we think the market's going to do and do we actually bet around it. And this next race is clearly one that we've identified. This is a Group 1 race. This is the Caulfield Guineas. This is what they call that day, Caulfield Guineas Day. I got this race going absolutely putrid, to be honest, Hutch. 3/4 of a second outside standard time. Now, that's fine if you go outside standard time. If you can come home your last section really good, and then you throw some bonus in there and it actually spits out okay. But 24.28, 12.56 for me doesn't cut it from a Group 1 perspective. Again, well done to connections, but I'm against this race going forward with possibly a couple of outliers that might not have had what they needed to have.
Yeah, the race hasn't rated well at all. It couldn't have. And like you said, the disappointing part was just those closing sections off what was a reasonable early speed, but you wanted to see something really charged through the line, and unfortunately, it didn't really happen. And how about our old mate Evaporate?
He just
keeps raising the bar.
Yeah.
And I know that we'll talk about Broadsiding in a second, but his run was fantastic, all things considered, I believe, and he once again, sort of stepped up. And
He did.
I don't know about the race overall. It's sort of, some of those horses coming out of the Guineas Prelude have figured they've probably had favours where they were in terms of the spot in the run.
Great ride, Damien Lane, too,
Yeah,
probably,
it
to
was
actually
brilliant.
be aggressive. Wanarua, who I thought probably would lead, sort of bungled the start a little bit, but Damien Lane, like he just said, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Even probably against the pattern of maybe where the connections were suggesting the horse would be, he said, I'm going to ride this race how I should ride it, and it got him the win.
He knew where he wanted to be, didn't he? And it certainly paid off. And this is the other issue when we get now. I suppose we'll talk about Broadsiding.
Yeah, we have to, I think. Yeah.
Stepped a bit slow, and then you're in trouble from that moment anyway, when you can't sort of, and you're a horse that does get back a little bit. Market $1.50 out to $1.80 as well, so it was easy, I think, probably getting to a more realistic
Yeah,
price.
100%. Yeah, I think I agree with that. And it was interesting to note that when he sort of did half miss it, James McDonald said, I want to be in lanes 1 and 2, which you've identified, obviously, in terms of the track intel. So he wanted to be there, but then sort of had to get off there or anything because nothing was taking him into the race. But then if you put up side by side Evaporate versus Broadsiding, it's hard to make excuses for Broadsiding saying the track beat him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're not going to do that. I mean, because there was a horse that had a harder run in the race and was ahead of him, I think. And I know what, J-Mac sort of got into the spot that he wanted to early after being a bit slow. Gee, Broadsiding, he has still come off what he's done.
Yeah.
Was it Caulfield? Either way, even if he gets every favour in the world, like, he's not blown them away anyway, is he?
So it's a really interesting one because you'll go to the Cox Plate and now it starts to bring into, okay, what is Broadsiding? He's got this massive SP that he'll carry for probably the rest of his life, which obviously is always going to anchor his price down, and understandably. He wins first up at Golden Rose. He's won all those other Group 1s as a 2-year-old. And now we're going to get him to 2,000 metres. But is this horse a pure wet tracker now we have to start thinking about? Now, I know he's got that good track win at Eagle Farm, but Eagle Farm, since it's been redone, always has plenty of give in it. So was the Caulfield Good 3 possibly the undoing of Broadsiding more than anything else in terms of the bias of the track, if you think there was some? That's now what I'm starting to think about with Broadsiding, and you have to start thinking about it really quickly because he is going to get to a Cox Plate in 2 weeks' time, and a lot of people are going to throw their hands in there and say, well, what do we do with him? You have to make a decision about Broadsiding, whether it's going to be, do I trust him and somehow forgive that second up run, or is he a pure wet tracker? And if Cox Plate ends up being a wet track, I can now go back with him. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do, and I still don't know if I'm right. But I'm starting to go down that path with him.
For me, he was just ridiculously short to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, I said, pre-race, there's a lot of hype built into this price, and I still have a lot of time for him, and he's still obviously a very exciting prospect, ran well there. He's going to have to elevate a lot off what he did there to do, to perform in those races.
I want to beat the ambulance if he does what he does on Saturday. He's going to beat him to 10.
It's a little better than that, but yeah, Cox, mate, they'll still go there, and
Well, he's going to be single figures too. He's not going to be 20 to 1.
Yeah, and it all does get back to price, and that could be a problem. The jury's out for me.
Yeah,
the jury's out. It's as simple as that. I think if he got to the right price, you'd certainly consider him. We have had quite a few good 3-year-olds beaten in the Guineas come out and perform
no
well
doubt.
on Cox Plate.
Yeah,
he might be another one of them. I'm not sure he's the absolute sensation that he was built up to be pre-race though.
Yeah, I think the first up win in the Golden Rose and what the market did to him that day, sort of everyone went whoa, and because the actual rating on Golden Rose wasn't through the roof, he only won by a barest possible margin. I mean, Mayfair was very close to him, but it was more just first up. This horse sort of defied history. No horse had been able to win a Golden Rose first up before, and he was 350 into 215. They're like, oh,
it was a massive go, wasn't it?
Second coming of
quite incredible. What do we do with Evaporate? You're talking about.
Well, that's the next. We'll
chat on that later.
Yeah, we'll chat on that later because I'll ask your thoughts on Evaporate because you're right. He just continued to raise the bar, and again, he was an outlier for those horses around the circle in those positions. That's the doghouse for this week. We finally got there. Hits and misses, Hutch, so where the PointsBet market movers were and how they ended up. Now, race 4, City of Lights, was $6 into $3.50. James McDonald went in the saddle. It was second up. First up probably didn't have much luck. Do you want to be with this horse again? It was unplaced. I'm not overly sold on it. The race hasn't gone very good overall, so I don't know if I want to be charging into it third up.
No, I thought he'd run a bit better than that, particularly, I think, generally with the run that he had.
Yes.
So
yep.
I felt he was a bit disappointing. No, won't be trusting him going forward.
Race 5, Who Dares? I think this was purely around a map positioning that the bigger players wanted to be with this horse. $16 into $9. It says miss, but it does run a hole. It finishes third. So probably for a lot of those players, it was probably an each-way play. I think it's hit. And that was purely, I think, of where that horse was going to get to, and it led and went at a fair clip too, didn't he?
He's just so honest, that horse, and you know what you get. I think they do a good job with him. He's consistent, and he's going to win another one soon, and you get a good run for your money because bad luck's never really in the equation with him.
It's a good point. Race 6, Braden Star, it was $16 into $8.50, again missed, but runs fourth and was actually storming home pretty well, this horse. I think this was around the fact that the bigger guys wanted to be around that naturalism kind of form line. This was different. This was Benalla Cup form this horse was coming out of. So it goes to show, and we've put those races, the Heatherly, the naturalism, we keep banging on about it, the Bart Cummings, we've put them in the doghouse and races you should be avoiding. It's for examples like this. Yes, it doesn't hit, but that's what the market does. It tries to find a different form line.
Not a bad run, Braden Star either.
Yeah. A Tissue was on the quick 7-day back up, $5 into $4. Mrs. runs third. It'll go to Flemington. We know it's a Flemington horse.
Yes.
You can't write her off in those
She ran well.
races. Yeah.
She ran well. I thought she closed off really well, so I'd be happy to stick with her going to Flemington.
Race 9, the 1,100 metre race. Recommendation, $4.60 into $3.60. Again, misses. And I think it was because they knew where this horse was going to be. It was going to be probably find the lead. But it's had a fantastic prep, so let's preface that. But I think now I don't want to be with it going forward.
Quicker ground as well, maybe?
Yeah, it's a very good point as well.
Some of those winter wins which rated extremely well, and recommendation's been up for a little while.
Yeah, he has. He's done a great job, but now I think he could go to the paddock, or if he does go again, I think we can avoid him a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't with him there, so I was happy to see him up figure.
Last race, market heavily pushed into this, and you could see the way the track was playing. It drew barrier 1. I speak of Another Will, $2.90 into $2.15. He was busted a long way from home, and you can talk about a lot of things, but has he become a horse now that can't handle high pressure? Do we have to get to him now with that? In the Doncaster, he couldn't handle the high pressure off the quick 7-day backup, and now we see it again. I don't know again, but the market absolutely frothed him, absolutely wanted to be with him, for him to start $2.15. I don't think there's any issue with him leading. I expected him to lead in these kinds of conditions, but he was just the first one beaten.
He was beaten a long way out. Look, it's early days with him.
Yes.
I don't want to, sort of put a pen through him going forward or say that he can't handle high pressure races, because he's still relatively lightly raced.
Yeah.
And, you know, they all improve at different times. What we've seen at his peak levels is very good.
Yes.
But he's not really sustaining it at this point for mine. And like you said, if he ran and then there was beaten a length or two, well, you know, maybe. But like you said, he was pretty much beaten at a very early stage in that race.
Yeah, he was. So again, I don't know what they're going to. He's only third up there too, so they'll probably have another run maybe later in the prep. Don't know where he goes to, but he's going to be pointy into the market. So you just got to be careful. Just when they come off a bad one like that, it's hard to butter up and want to back them again.
Well,
so,
he really dropped right off.
He did. He was really poor. So anyway, that's the hits and misses for this week, punters. All right, let's get to In the Fox's Den here, Hutch. So black bookers that we think we can follow going forward. You're going to kick us off here with a horse that, well, was outstanding, to be honest. And from a couple of perspectives, the ride was brilliant, but you also need the horse.
You need the cattle.
Correct.
You need the cattle. What a win from Antino. No, it was a good ride. I mean, you love to see it. We need more jockeys having a crack and not worrying about losing. I mean, and you know, the really good riders, that's what they do. They, you know, they back their judgment. Blake did that.
Yep.
But as he said, even post-race, you know, you've still got to have the horse. And
Yeah.
Antino has gone through the roof here,
Yeah.
Backed up by the big margin. And
What do we do with it? So
well,
this is the question for the punters. What do we do with it?
they're talking about him potentially going to Hong Kong. So sort of, you know, looked at the numbers that he's put up. If he repeats that sort of performance, he'll be right in the game in a Hong Kong mile.
So in a Hong Kong mile, what's over there at the moment that's sort of the benchmark? You've got a great guide on Hong Kong. Would that number stack right up? And
Yes,
yeah.
it would. And, you know, the Galaxy Patch actually would probably be top seed for that race, and he actually won on the weekend. So Antino's got to go there. He's got to bring that level. The track generally will favour a horse like him too, because he sort of likes to, you know, wait and then build late. But he'll be competitive. I hope he goes. So I do hope he goes, and I think if he did, you know, the Aussies would have something to shout home.
Yeah, that's good. So that would be. I did hear them say that. So that's great. If they decided to go 7 day, or not 7 day, 2 weeks into a Cox Plate, any chance? Any chance? Would you entertain him off that number? Getting to 2,000 metres, you know it's going to be high pressure with Pride of Jenny. Would he be any hope in it?
Oh, he'd have to be off that number. But is he going to bounce off a real peak like that?
Thing.
I mean, there's a good chance he probably could. I don't know, it's 2,000 he's go as
Yeah,
well.
that's it, Hong Kong to me seems the right play.
Yeah.
Without knowing the ins and outs of what you have to do to get there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But from that number, I would think that's the path I would go.
If you owned him, would you go to a Cox Plate?
I wouldn't.
No.
Because I don't think he could win it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. As good as that number is, I just think he still does things wrong if he misses it around Moonee Valley with Pride of Jenny in the race. Instead of being whatever he was off another wheel on Saturday, he's 30 lengths off Pride of Jenny. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that
and it's going to be a hard run for him too.
Yeah.
But they probably want to run him somewhere again before they go.
Well, they've got the Champions Mile at Flemington.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's where he should go.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's where I'd probably head if I had him, and then that's basically about a month or 5
Seems
weeks into Hong Kong.
a good type of break between runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's Antino for the Fox's Den. I've got a couple here coming out of that Aviatrix race here, Hutch. So, Charmstone, didn't like her on Saturday because she was off about 380 days. She had 58 kilos. She was wide, but I thought she through the line was really good. And she's never really been one of mine, Charmstone. I've never really been able to get a good handle on it. But I think this is a race I want to follow with confidence. And Charmstone next start could be the horse.
She was a great run. I completely agree with everything you said there. And you know what? She didn't. I know you're not a jump out person, but her jump out leading in, I didn't like it at all. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh wow, you've run pretty well there.
Yeah.
And she, you know, just that time off. Like if you've had a year off,
correct.
You know, to run as well as she did, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Just because the race has gone so well as well. So I think there's something there with Charmstone. Same race again here, punters. This one will not be at the top echelon. She was off 164 days. Her name's Yellow Sam. She's tricky to place. She's rated 86, so she's not, you know, there's not many open handicap mares races this time. It's usually the set weight and penalty, and she won a Group 3 race down in Tasmania, so she actually gets a penalty sometimes. You've got to pick the eyes out of the calendar, the camp, but if they do, Yellow Sam is ready to win because she was out the back and I just loved her through the line. You don't see her too much on the TV, but she's one you can follow with confidence because if they find the right race, They'll put her on speed and she can win. I can assure you of that, Yellow Sam. 3 off Broadway here, Hutch, that I've got for the punters.
Okay.
Cherish the Day, won a maiden at Warrnambool. It's as high a maiden as I've ever rated.
What?
It went enormous.
Really?
So
Huh.
I don't know where it's going. I don't know what it's doing, but I want to be with it big time. The second horse you've just got to be with, it's called Fickle. It'll just win the maiden next start. It might actually be in Warrnambool this time next week. I think there's a Warrnambool meeting next Monday. Don't know if they're going to go there again, but it's trained on the track, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it there. And a horse called Swifties. It went big on debut at Bendigo. I want to be wherever it goes next as well. So there's a few there, but Cherish the Day. That rating scared
From
me.
the bull.
From the bull, I know.
You've,
So
done
I can trust.
you've done some of your best
Yeah,
work at the bull.
well, you could self-indulge the fact that I actually got carted off on racing.com while they were still on air and didn't realise that as the gurney or whatever's out the back, they could still see me. Had to give the thumbs up that I wasn't dead. But anyway,
He's alive.
yeah,
He's
I think a few of the producers were suggesting, wishing I was dead. Anyway, that's the In the Fox's Den for this week. Got the better of me that day. Jeepers.
That's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
He's off to the ambo.
All right, time for Think Outside the Fox here, Hutch. We're almost there. I'm going to ask about a few of these horses and what you think or who you would take or where they should go. Evaporate or broadsiding in the Cox Plate? A, if you were the Hayes camp, would you have a crack at the Cox Plate? Where else do you go?
Well, he goes pretty well round there.
Absolutely.
He's been there twice, been impressive. Put it this way, if you're of the belief that broadsiding still can go and still be a chance, well, Evaporate has to go.
Yes.
Like he's of his equal anyway.
Yep.
If not better in some respects, like I said, with the run that he endured and the fact that he's been to the Valley and won.
Yep.
So, like, he's just continued to surprise us. And it's probably one of those things as well, like we talk a lot about ratings, but, you know, it's a great game this because they still surprise you.
Yeah.
They still can, you know.
I'll still never
produce something
find him.
different.
From a ratings perspective, there's
Absolutely.
there's more out there, and it's
not everything.
He keeps absolutely no. There's plenty more to this stupid game that we get involved with. That's absolutely for sure. But yeah, no, he keeps doing things that keep surprising me. So I reckon they've got a hard question to answer with him because I don't know if he would get a mile and a half for a derby. So whether they want to go down that path, but where else do you go then if you want to keep him in work? There's Cox Plate or nothing really.
It's 2 weeks, and he's run really well
Yeah,
yesterday.
I think I'd have a crack.
Yeah. Like I said, they're going there with broadsiding, and you wouldn't be worried about him.
Yeah. Yep.
If you're Evaporate.
Yep. Deny knowledge. After you've got this horse going massive in the Might and Power, it's going to be on the quick 7-day backup in the Caulfield Cup. It has won on the backup before. It won a matriarch. I think last year, coming out of ran 4th, I think, in the Empire Rose, and then quick 7-day back up into 2,000 metres matriarch. Is it a live hope? 50.5 kilos in a Caulfield Cup.
I think so. I love the back. Everyone loves the backup.
Yep.
It's rated well for me. I'd say on this day, she got an uncontested lead there, and I know she rolled along at a good tempo, but she was allowed to do it on her terms.
Yep.
In a Caulfield Cup, there is going to be a fair bit more pressure. There's a number of on paces. You've got Just Fine. LS will be handy.
Yeah, absolutely.
LS will probably take a sit. Look, we don't know barrier draws. And there's another runner. And listening to her, what Mark Zara basically said about her, you know, she can step a bit slow, so not a massively quick. It's a bit of a quick run. She's going to need the right run.
Yep.
But I think in terms of what she did there, absolutely she's in the game.
Very good. Also, just on that same race, Mr. Brightside, where's your confidence levels if you were that camp going into a Cox Plate? Not being able to pick her up, there might have been some excuses for that. 2,000 metres, we know it's going to be a fast run pressure race with Pride of Gender. We just know that. Can he win it? Can he win a Cox Plate off that run?
Off that run, I think he's in the game once again, but I'm not completely sold on him overall. You know, but he has to be considered a decent chance.
Yeah.
But I'm with Prognosis. I think Prognosis will come and elevate. And if you're talking about him versus Pride of Jenny, gee, he's going to have his work cut out reeling her in. Never mind some of the others as well. So I'd be pushing him out if I was putting up a price. I'd be pushing him out in the market anyway.
And Jimmy's a star. What level can he get to? We sort of touched on it briefly. He's the real deal for you. He is for me. I think he can get to. He's going to probably have a lightweight in a race like the Rupert Clark. I think the market's probably cotton onto that, and he's probably $3.50 favourite or something like
He'd
that.
be
with
very
points
hard to
bet.
beat if he produces that sort of performance.
Yeah, he would be, wouldn't he? Yeah, he's one I think you can follow with confidence, punters. All right, that's the show, Hutch. We've got through it. We've survived. We'll go on Caulfield Cup this week, and you'll be with me on Wednesday. We're out at Caulfield.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Better find me a few winners, Jules.
Yeah, well, we had a bit of a golden lining on Saturday, so you got none on Wednesday. Absolutely none. Thanks, punters. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.